today that I would bore you to death about copyright. Okay, good. Cool. So, what is copyright? Oh yeah. Copyright is the legal right that protects your work. And what I'm talking about today particularly is copyright from a photographic point of view, but it is equally applicable to music, to fonts, to movies, no matter what. And it's governed by the Copyright and Designs Act, 1998. Copyright lays down the framework about how work can be used by a third party. So, quick quiz. A customer purchases a photograph of themselves at an event. Who owns the copyright on that photograph? Correct, it's the photographer. Though we have had people at events say that, or subsequent to an event, they bought a photograph, they claim they own the copyright because it's a photograph of them. Doesn't work that way. Oh, look at the people. Yeah. Okay, another quick quiz question. A couple engage the services of a wedding photographer to photograph their big day. Who owns the copyright?
Is it the photographer then again?
It is. The photographer owns the copyright. Basically, it is whoever presses the button owns the copyright. There was a case last year about a photographer who got a photograph of a monkey, and the monkey had taken the picture.
Oh yeah. The monkey gained copyright.
And the copyright was awarded to the monkey and not the chap that set the shot up. So, yeah, the answer is, in a wedding scenario, the photographer still retains the copyright. Most photographers who are shooting weddings will provide the couple with a license to reproduce the images, but they still hold the copyright.
Can you ever change that? Can you like buy the copyright?
You can do.
Yeah.
The photographer, you can ask the photographer, and the photographer can waive or assign the copyright to whomever.
I mean, most celebrities always have the copyright of the photographs. They don't want to go into the public space, they always buy the copyright.
Okay, here's an interesting one from my point of view. Right, final quiz question. A photographer A, hires in an assistant, photographer B. Does photographer A own all of the copyright? It does. It depends on whoever collects the photograph.
Then you need a better contract with photographer B.
Yes, you do. But without having contract in place, photographer B owns the copyright.
So the photographer B's got to sign up on that document
Yes.
before he can get it.
Even if photographer B is a monkey.
Indeed. Especially when. Okay, so inadvertent copyright theft. I see this an awful lot. There is a popular held misconception that every image on the internet is copyright free, and you can therefore take it and use it. This is incorrect.
Oh dear.
Exactly.
It's the striped pajamas for you, boy.
And it's not just photographs, clip art and things like that. People quite often go to Google. And it's if you're doing a presentation or handing out leaflets or whatever, then
Putting a backing track on your video.
exactly, that's right. I've been very careful here
Yes.
and only Googled me so that I'm not infringing anybody's copyright, possibly Google's logo, but
The thing with that is though, you have to be careful when you get somebody else to do your leaflets or your website.
just wait.
Okay.
Wait,
I'm jumping the gun on
Get
that.
out of that bit.
I knew I shouldn't have left the tablet up there. Yeah, so another misconception is that you have to have a copyright symbol on the piece of artwork or whatever. That is not true. A body of work is copyright from the moment that it is created. It doesn't have to have anything written on it.
Just going back to photographing a person, you have the copyright.
Yes.
What if you photograph them without their permission?
Doesn't matter. If it's in a public place,
Sure.
a photographer can take a photograph anywhere they like.
Okay. So
Apart from there.
that person's got no rights at all,
No,
really?
none at all.
Okay.
So don't know if you can switch it, you don't want to get photographed.
So, as I say, so the safest thing to do is consider every image that you see. If in doubt, consider that it, assume that it is copyright, and that you do not have permission to do anything with it. Favourite subject of mine: image theft.
Obviously, I'm gonna-
Happens a lot. We have this happen so regularly. And whenever I find somebody who has taken one of my images, lifted it off the website and shared it, complete with the do not copy all over it, their answer is that my sharing of your picture with your watermarks is advertising for you.
You're doing free advertising for them.
Yeah. So my response is, okay, I call it the Nike response. If I walk into the Nike store and lift one of their t-shirts with their logo on it, can I walk out the door and say that I'm advertising your product? The answer is almost certainly, and I'll bow to legal knowledge of this, I'm certain that it's illegal for me to steal somebody's t-shirt.
Yeah.
So, that's great. Now, this is on to where you were. I know of other photographers, this hasn't happened to me as far as I'm aware, but I know of other photographers who have had large parts of their website cloned by other photographers who are setting themselves up in business. And so they don't have the stock images that they need to make their business look good, so they lift them from somebody else. And they always, without fail, blame their web designer, even if they are their own web designer. It is our firm suspicion that most of these people are building their own websites. But anyway, so they will say it wasn't us, it was our web designer. Now, I came across this court case the other day. Court case, a chap called Jonathan Webb, who is an aerial photographer, and a company called VA Events, and the two directors. What happened was, Mr. Webb, as I say, is an aerial photographer, and he had taken a photograph of the Manchester skyline at night from a helicopter. VA Events was an events company, and they did promotional marketing. For about 18 months, VA Events were using a photograph that the photographer had taken as the background image on all of their web pages.
Without
And
his
they-
permission.
Without his permission. And he took them to court. VA Events said that they were unaware that they had breached copyright, and they blamed their web designer. Now, they had used a company called Mancunian something or other, Mancunian Creative, and that immediately folded. Okay? Leaving VA Events swallowed. VA Events also said that the photographer should have made it more difficult for them to take the artwork. Okay? This is despite the fact that there were 33 copyright messages across the image that had to be photoshopped out one at a time.
No.
Wow.
No.
And that was their defence.
Wow.
Okay? Is it doing anything?
What?
Still-
Let's do Photoshop down.
The directors tried to hide behind the fact that the limited company was a separate legal entity to the directors. The judge said, nah, that's not going to do it. And the judge awarded 1,800 quid damages to the photographer, and they got it from the directors and not from the limited company. which subsequently folded. So, in short,
Don't pinch my pictures.
yeah, bang on time, look at
Bang on time, mate.
that.
Absolutely bang on time.
When in doubt, assume
Leave it out.
that copyright exists. Yes.
So, I'm on a night out.
Mm-hmm.
Someone takes a phone.
No.
Go on, make us believe it.
On Facebook.
Yes.
He was going to say with some friends.
So,
but
then, because it's so absolutely hilarious and funny, people share it.
Mhm.
Is that infringement of copyright?
No, it isn't, because as part of the agreement with Facebook, when you're uploading images, you are allowing for the sharing of images.
Facebook.
What isn't allowed is in the instance where somebody has taken a screen grab from another website. For instance, and this happens an awful lot for me, people will take an image, they'll screen grab from my website, an image, and then post that onto Facebook. And then that gets shared. That is an infringement of copyright.
Right. Okay. That's. I mean, because you see all these images shared on Facebook.
Yes.
We're going back to the person that hit the button.
I'm intrigued by the number of, every year the Daily Mail will run a story about some wedding photographer who's ruined a couple's wedding. And they will always publish the pictures. I don't understand how they do that, because I can guarantee that the photographer would never allow them to.
No.
Yes.
I was on YouTube the other day looking at looking at my video on
Mhm.
there, okay, inspirational labels.
Stick with that.
And the third one down
plug for the,
is another one
Mhm.
which is exactly the same as mine.
Okay.
i.e. it's mine, but it's actually been associated now with Sato
Mhm.
Eastern European, no, not Eastern European, Sato Pacific.
Right.
So they've got my video in their thing. So when you click onto it, it's me talking,
Okay.
and it's their thing.
Japanese.
Where do I stand with that?
It's difficult because if it's part of a playlist, if it's a playlist that they've put together, then they're doing nothing wrong. If they've taken your video and rebranded it as theirs, then it's an infringement of copyright.
Okay. Currently, I think it's got their name on it. At the front.
Talk to a solicitor.
Then yes, talk to a specialist. You can also, with all of the social medias, Facebook, YouTube, and so on, you can file a takedown notice with them. There'll be a complaints procedure, and you can say, this video infringes my copyright,
Yeah.
and they will take it down.
Okay. Interesting, isn't it?
So the W voice are Chinese.
So if you want to use
No, I've got my
Yes.
logo.
really funny on your website.
Got my voice on it. Just got my logo at the
Okay,
end.
what you would need
It's
to
got
do
their logo at the end.
is you would need to get in touch with there's a couple of ways. If it's one particular image, the only way that you can do it is by getting in touch with the photographer and saying, we want to buy this, we want the rights to use this image for marketing or for a website or for sticking on the wall or whatever. There are also, if it's just generic images that you're after, then you cannot just Google for them and take them. What you need to do is start using stock agencies and buying stock images.
So that protects you then.
Yes, if you have purchased the image through a stock site, and there are thousands and thousands of stock agencies. Some of them provide free images, but they are images where the photographer has said you can do with them as you will. Because the thing here is, it is the creator of the body of work's decision what can be done with their image or with their work. You cannot say I want to use that without their permission.
As the photographer,
Yes.
And you put these photographs on your website, so you have the copyright.
Mhm.
How do you know if somebody has copied it and is using it elsewhere?
Okay, well there's a couple of ways. One is sheer luck. It's three ways. One's sheer luck, two, somebody tells you. And I'm a member of the Event Photographer Society, and we have a mechanism for sharing. If I see images up on somebody's website or on their Facebook feed, and because we get a lot of inquiries and a lot of friend requests from customers, we can see various people's Facebook feeds. And if I see somebody from, I don't know, Dorset Events photos on somebody's Facebook page, I can then
Let them know.
and say this is what's happening. The second thing is, particularly things like the website, you can actually do a Google image search where you can say to Google, find this image. You can upload an image to it and Google will say where it's found it in the past. And presumably that's how this chap found where his image was used or something similar.
Is there an upper ceiling for purchase of an image from a person that's created that body of work? I.e., can they charge what
They can charge whatever they like. The photographer, I believe, here was suing for considerably more than 1,800 quid.
Right.
But that's what he was given.
At weddings, if it's a particularly nice wedding, nice couple,
Mhm.
whatever, we sometimes say to the photographer, can we have a couple of those for our web page?
Yes.
And the standard answer is, ask the bride and groom to give you some of theirs
Okay.
that they're having of him.
Right.
So technically then, can they do that?
Depends upon the license that the photographer is issuing. Ordinarily, the answer would be no, I think, because most photographers would give a license to reproduce, but not a license to distribute. It's like you would not ordinarily be able to, if you provided a bride and groom with photographs, they wouldn't be allowed to resell them.
Or scan them.
Or scan them
Send them
or
off to
whatever.
all their friends.
But
I
what's
mean-
happened is they get a flash drive that
Yes.
shares their photos from, and then they sometimes send us one or two off that flash drive. But the photographers themselves sometimes send us a couple anyway. But it's just that this, when they say ask the bride and groom, there's
Yeah.
hidden permission on it.
Get in writing in the future. That you got permission.
Yes, it's one of those that the photographer is also is covering themselves there by saying that they're being unwilling to give permission for bride and groom's images to represent your business because the bride and groom may not like your services. And so they're saying, okay, well, you need to get their permission for you to use the images. In all likelihood, you're not doing anything wrong in that scenario. But there is because you could argue that you had asked the bride and groom had said yes, the photographer told you to talk to the bride and groom. Really, to cover yourselves, you need it written, or you need the photographer to send it to you.
So does that mean that when we come in and you've all set up and taken our images, which we're now using or whatever else, that we should have a piece of paper from you that says that we're allowed to use those? You took those pictures of us.
Technically, yes. But, however, I'm friendly.
Until you're not.
Until I join B&I.
The thing is though, it just doesn't just apply to photos.
No,
I mean, I know somebody who got sued because they were actually copying somebody else's blog
Mhm.
and putting it out as their own.
Yes.
You know, and yeah, so they got sued. They were told to do this and they didn't do this, so they got sued for it.
What happens when somebody copies all your work and they're based in the Aleutian Islands or somewhere like that.
It's harder.
That's what I'm saying, you know, the whole
It's a long way to
whole
pound your
website
canoe.
completely cloned, and I looked up on the domain and it was based in somewhere obscure that I'd never heard of before.
Yeah, you
So
still
it's
wouldn't be able
enforcing
to.
it, that's
It is. It is.
It's a very interesting topic, so very
We had one of our training days from the Fellowship of Independent Celebrants, and the bloke who runs it had put a video camera up before we started and was videoing all the celebrants who were there who didn't know that he was videoing it. And then in the afternoon, it turned out somebody found out about it, and they insisted that he deleted it because he hadn't asked anybody if he could do it. He wanted to put it on his webpage,
Right.
but he hadn't asked anybody's permission,
Okay.
so he had to take it off.
I don't know the answer to that one.
Bloody concretely.
Okay.
well, thank you very much, Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah.